Stephen William Hawking was born in Oxford, England, on January 8, 1942, at the height of World War II. Exactly 300 years after the death of Galileo, the father of astronomy. Stephen Hawking grew up in an educated family. Both his parents held university degrees. His father was a medical researcher, and his mother worked as a medical research secretary. Education was highly valued in their household. However, Stephen was not a brilliant student as a child. In fact, he couldn't read properly even at the age of 8. Although his performance in school was average, his teachers recognized something unique about him. They knew that, deep inside, Stephen was a hidden genius. He never had a particular interest in school or attending classes. Instead, he spent most of his time inventing new things. While in school, his friends nicknamed him Einstein. By the age of 14, he already knew he wanted to become a physicist. He believed that by studying physics, he could find answers to the questions he and his friends had been asking. Where did living beings come from? Why are we here? Where are we going? At 17, he went to the University of Oxford to study physics and chemistry. Surprisingly, during his time at university, he was incredibly lazy, spending at most only an hour a day on his studies. Yet he still managed to pass his exams with outstanding grades. According to Stephen, his first year at university was extremely boring. He once said, "I'm not proud of this. I'm just describing how I behaved at the time." His behavior, however, was similar to that of most of his classmates. After graduating from Oxford, he was accepted for a PhD program at the University of Cambridge. But before that, he traveled to Iran with some friends, visiting several cities there. After returning from Iran, he continued his studies in cosmology at Cambridge. However, soon after, he began experiencing some physical abnormalities. His speech became unclear, he was clumsy, and he frequently fell. At first, Stephen didn't pay much attention to his condition, but his health quickly deteriorated. During this time, he met Jane Wilde. However, after undergoing a series of tests, doctors diagnosed him with ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, in its early stages. Unfortunately, this disease was causing the part of his brain responsible for controlling muscles to shut down. ALS gradually paralyzes individuals. Over time, patients struggle to walk, speak, swallow, and even breathe without assistance. Doctors told Stephen that he had only 2 years to live. At 21, when he received this devastating news, something changed within him. Now that he was facing the possibility of death, he decided to stop being lazy and use his precious time to make a difference in the world. He devoted his entire life to his work. He even became more optimistic and married Jane on July 14, 1965. They had 3 children. Stephen once said, "When faced with the possibility of an early death, you realize that life is worth living and that there is so much you want to do. You must keep going, and I haven't done too badly." If you are always angry or complaining, no one will have time for you. In the early years of their marriage, Jane helped Stephen maintain a positive outlook on life. However, in 1995, the couple divorced, with religion being one of the main reasons for their separation. Jane was a Christian, while Stephen was an atheist. He once stated that the idea of an afterlife was nothing more than a fairy tale for people who are afraid of death. He repeatedly mentioned that the brain is like a computer. Once it stops functioning, it simply shuts down. He believed that there is no heaven or afterlife for a broken computer, and that such beliefs were just beautiful stories for those afraid of the dark. Over the years, Stephen Hawking became one of the most renowned, unique, and admired scientists in history. His groundbreaking research on black holes and the origin of the universe transformed the way we think about science. A turning point in his career came when he attended a lecture by mathematician Roger Penrose. Inspired by Penrose's ideas and applying mathematics to the world of black holes, Hawking published his most important paper. In this paper, he explored the connection between black holes and the laws of thermodynamics. He demonstrated that black holes eventually disappear due to the formation of virtual particle pairs at their event horizon. This prediction suggested that black holes must emit radiation, a phenomenon that is now famously known as Hawking radiation. The joint paper by Hawking and Penrose, published in 1970, proved that if general relativity is correct and the universe contains the amount of matter we observe, then the Big Bang singularity must have occurred in the past. Hawking wrote many books, but his most famous work, A Brief History of Time, sold over 25 million copies. In July 1985, Stephen experienced severe breathing difficulties and was rushed to the hospital where he underwent a tracheotomy. The surgery was successful, but it permanently took away his ability to speak. The new challenge was how Stephen could communicate with his colleagues and students. Fortunately, a software engineer named Walt Woltosz developed the famous robotic voice that became Hawking's signature sound. During the 1990s, his interest shifted toward time travel. In 2012, however, he stated that experimental evidence suggested time travel was unlikely. To test this idea, he once hosted a party for time travelers, but he sent out the invitations only after the party had ended. "I waited a long time," he said, "but no one came." Hawking remains one of the most inspiring figures in the world. He had an incredible determination and an unshakable will to live. He never let his illness become an obstacle. It didn't matter how difficult life was, how impossible his goals seemed, or how unreachable his dreams appeared for Hawking, giving up was never an option. Despite everything, he proved his doctors wrong and lived for over 55 years after being diagnosed with ALS, passing away at the age of 76. Although physically disabled, Stephen Hawking's mind remained limitless. He had some of the best advice for living a fulfilling life. Remember to look up at the stars and not down at your feet. Never give up on your work or your goals. Work gives you meaning and purpose, and life is empty without it. If you're lucky enough to find love, remember that it exists. Don't throw it away. Try to understand what you see and ask yourself how the universe exists. Stay curious. No matter how hard life may seem, there is always something you can do and succeed at. The important thing is never to give up. Be brave. Be determined. Everything is possible. As long as there is life, there is hope. On March 14th, 2018, Stephen Hawking passed away at his home in Cambridge. He was laid to rest in London near the graves of Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin. His gravestone inscription reads, "Here lies what remains of Stephen Hawking." Additionally, a recording of his voice, encoded in binary format, was transmitted toward a black hole using one of Spain's space transmitters.